Hello, class. Welcome to your first day of Dot 715. My name is Dr. Shawishi Haynes. I am your university research methodologist. Dr. Overby is your chair, and she is also the instructor of this course. I'm a support faculty as your URM or University Research Methodologist. I'd like to go over some information that I would like for you to carry with you as you go through this course, but also as you go through Doc 723, Doc 741, as you go through this particular journey. Your first particular assignment for this class is to put together your prospectus. And your prospectus is really chapter one of your dissertation. And so, what I'd like for you to think about is how you're going to pull this information together. I know that Dr. Overby has sent information or has provided information in the classroom. And so I'd like to just complement that information with the information that I would like to provide as your methodologist. The two documents that you see on the screen are tools that you should use throughout this particular journey. And so, as you prepare for your assignment to complete your prospectus, chapter one is in your dissertation template. This is the dissertation template. All this information should be filled in. All this information should be filled in. The only information that you would not know at this juncture is your panel validator. You have this information as well as you have your methodologist information. And so start to develop your document and make sure it's complete. Your table of contents. These are all the things that are inclusive of chapter one, and this is the information that you should provide in that submission. The background of the problem statement, purpose of the study, population and sample, significance, etc. And so before you start to put this document together, you want to think about those things. You want to think about what it is that you want to do if you've not already thought about that. Because when you submit this document, it shouldn't be kind of a brainstorming session. You put it on the paper and you submit. This should be really what you're going to be doing. You should have thought through this. And so I want to make sure that when you submit it, that you submit a complete document, because the only way that we can provide substantive feedback is if you have a complete document. So all of these sections should be completed. And so, to help facilitate your understanding of how to do that, I want to just give you a little bit of information. As a methodologist, my responsibility is to make sure that you understand what's expected in your chapter one and your chapter three. Chapter one is a mini chapter three when you get to further classes. And so, the sooner you get your chapter one pinned down and really approved by your chair and myself, you're on a good path to complete the rest of your document. So we're going to move past this to chapter one. This information in all of these sections guide the content that is required in each of the particular sections of your chapter one. To help facilitate completion of that, utilize the College of Doctoral Studies dissertation guide. Um, Your chair provided information where you can find that on the College of Doctoral Studies website. Your introduction helps to create context for your topic. And so you want to, if you need to, research, look at other dissertations and things like that to see what kind of information is in a dissertation introduction to help you formulate thought process for your particular topic. And then you want to provide a preview of what the rest of the chapter is going to cover, which is the background, the problem statement, all those sections that I showed you in the table of contents. The background information is really that roadmap to that problem statement, right? And so to create flow, you want to make sure that the background is letting the reader know This is what has occurred related to this particular problem, relevant statistics, other research that has been done, those types of things to create the sense, that platform of the reason why this problem exists, kind of the evolution of this particular problem. And then that should be a good segue into your problem statement. Your problem statement should have some context setting. It should talk about the problem. It should talk about the consequences of not solving that problem. Here, where it talks about review the CDS dissertation guide problem statement section, that's this document. And if you go to, we'll just say case study. If you're going to do a case study, qualitative methodology, and just to step back a second, qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods are the methodologies. Action research, appreciative inquiry, correlational, experimental, quasi, those are the designs. So let's say you're going to do a qualitative case study. You want to review this information thoroughly so that you can complete the rest of your chapter one accurately and substantively. So if you're going to do a case study requires multiple sources of evidence. These are some of the multiple sources of evidence. Read up on that. And don't just utilize these tools. Utilize whatever tools and resources that you need to ensure that you have a good document. Because this is a doctoral program, and this is a dissertation, you will have to pull from all sorts of resources within the library, etc., in order to make sure that you have all the information you need to do this correctly. So if you're going to do a case studies, there's different types. These are the various types here. To create alignment, you want to make sure that if you say you're going to do an explanatory case study, that your focus is on explaining why something is occurring. Whereas an exploratory case study is discussing what is occurring. If you're doing a descriptive case study, then you should already have an established theory that you're going to be describing against that, and so on and so forth. Now, when it talks about review this section for the problem statement, the problem, the purpose, significance, etc., which you'll find similar statements under each of these sections, read these pieces of information. It helps guide you to create alignment for your particular study. Wording matters. You can't have a qualitative study with quantitative language. So an example of that might be, if you're saying you're going to do a qualitative exploratory case study, then you can't talk about, you're going to be looking at the relationship between variable X versus variable Y, because we don't look at relationships with a qualitative study, if that makes sense. And so again, wording matters, and wording should be consistent throughout your chapter one. If you get chapter one substantively correct, then the path for the rest of this endeavor is easier as you go through the rest of the classes. And so you really have to think through all of the information that you're putting in chapter one. The purpose statement. This section should be thoroughly completed with your assignment, with your perspective. There's information in each of these sections. You want to make sure that you covered all the information that is required in the section. Review the information that's listed in your alignment handbook, because that helps guide you for alignment. When it talks about provide a description of the means through which the goals of your study will be achieved, you want to talk about in high level how you're going to conduct the study. You don't want to talk about it in detail because the other sections will discuss it in detail. You're just going to provide a high level description of how you're going to achieve the goals of your study. When it talks about provide a clear statement of research objectives, make sure you understand what objective statements are versus aim statements versus the goal of your study. When you talk about objectives, if you mention objectives of the research anywhere else in this document, the wording should be the exact same because the objectives are the exact same for the study. Only talk about in each section what is asked for in each section. Do not put anything else in the section that is not required for that section. You want to be concise in your wording. You don't want to be redundant, meaning that you don't want to say the same things over and over in different ways. You want to make sure that your information flows. So after you complete the chapter, then give it to someone who knows nothing about the topic and see if it flows for them. See what kind of questions they ask you because those may be gaps that you may need to cover in a particular section. Population and sample. What I always tell students is make sure that you have access to your population, your sample. The population, if you think about a pie, the population is the whole pie. The sample is a slice. You're going to have to think about the sampling methodology. If you don't understand that, then do some research on what sampling methodology in research is. That will help you to understand what sampling methodology you would choose. It will help you understand the difference between population and sample if you don't understand those concepts. Significance of the research. Again, look here. You're going to describe the benefits of the proposed study, such as to explore the situation in order to make recommendations for improvement. And this is just for the case study section. This information is different in different sections based on different methodologies and design. Research questions, nature of the study, those types of things. Make sure, again, that everything flows, it's consistently stated throughout. Your research questions in the alignment handbook, it gives you guide rails, so to speak, on what research questions kind of read like, sound like, or worded for case studies versus appreciative inquiry, those different types of designs and methodologies. Again, you'll see here, review the CDS dissertation guide. That's this document. These two documents will help you put together your first chapter or your chapter one. And then your chair and I will give you some feedback on that. But I'd like to just make sure that you know that the expectation is that this document is thoroughly completed. And then after, we will give you feedback. Often there's changes, but I wanted to just give you kind of some guidelines, so to speak, with this particular chapter. There's other information that's listed: the conceptual framework, definition of terms, assumptions, limitations, and those types of things. The takeaway here is that if there's something that you don't understand in a particular section, then you need to research it. So if you don't understand a conceptual framework, then you need to research it so that then you can develop one. If you don't know the difference between when to use theoretical versus conceptual, it's outlined in the template. So with that, welcome to class. I look forward to meeting you and working with you on this journey. Take care.